And just for a moment, seeing if you can bring your attention to just the seat, the surface that's holding you, and maybe just allowing the body to just really gently, kind of safely sink into the surface. You're just taking in a deep breath. And on a long exhale, just allowing the body to soften, just allowing the body to gently sink in here. And then also just noticing if there's any tension or any tightness anywhere. And just seeing if the tightness and the tension can soften up a little bit. Maybe just adjusting the body, kind of shifting your pose a little bit until you find a place, pose that kind of feels right for you. Supported, alert, but also soft and as relaxed as you can be. I understand that sometimes it's not easy to be relaxed. Mostly there's a lot going on. So just noticing what's here. Allowing the shoulders to drop, allowing the jaw to release. Taking in another deep breath. Now just releasing any tightness around the face. Is there any squinting around the eyes? How are the teeth? And so just allowing it all to soften up. And as you breathe in, taking this softening to every part of the body. And as you breathe out, you just allow it to release. So just releasing deeper and deeper into this softening of the body, giving it that message that it's okay right now to let go. There's nothing it needs to fix. There's nothing it needs to hold on to. Checking in with your feet and all those areas of contact with the earth or the floor. Knowing that the body is always in communication with the earth. Every step you take, every time we're in contact with the earth, the earth always cradling you and holding you in this way. And as you pay attention to the body right now, maybe noticing how the breath kind of lifts up the body. When the body rises on the in breath and falls on the out breath. Seeing if you can follow this rising and falling of the breath. Every time you notice the mind wandering, getting distracted, telling you stories, and just acknowledging where it goes and then coming back. This is kind of like this kind attention, kind of really acknowledging, like, I see you. Okay. And then you just come right back to the sensation of the breath in the body rising on the in breath, falling on the out breath. Maybe the cooling of the air coming in into the body as you become one with it. And then the warmth as it exits, as this air exits the body and goes out into the world. With each in breath, you take a little, and with each out breath, you give a little. So being fully conscious that you are breathing. And if there's still a lot of thinking, that's okay. The thinking can be in the background, kind of like a radio playing at a distance. But your attention is resting right here on the breath or on the body. And now, very gently opening up your attention to sound. So maybe starting out with just the sounds within yourself. Or maybe you can hear yourself breathing, maybe the belly rumbling. Sometimes that happens. Maybe the swallowing as it happens. And there's no need to look for any sounds, but just allowing sound to come to you, to come into this loving kind awareness. Now opening up to the sounds in the room you're at. Maybe the sound of static on the computer or any other sounds that might be here right now, or the silence that might be happening right now if you have silent or noise canceling earplugs or headphones, maybe tuning into the silence. What is that like? Maybe opening up to any other sounds out on the street, outside where you're in, outside your space. And instead of labeling the sound, instead of allowing the sound to tell story, even the mind tells story about everything, really tuning into what the sound is like with kind curiosity, the tone, the rhythm, the volume. So listening deeply, without the story, without any interpretation, just listening. And every time you get carried away by a thought, anytime the mind takes you away from this moment, just come back to sounds, come back to listening. Listening with your entire being. And as you listen, sometimes you might notice tension or tightness in the body. Seeing if you can soften up and just kind of listen without interpretation, without labeling. This is listening, just listening. So Leo Buscaglia, in his poem, Please Listen, says, when I ask you to listen to me and you start giving me advice, you have not done what I asked. When I ask you to listen to me and you begin to tell me why I shouldn't feel that way, you're trampling on my feelings. When I ask you to listen to me and you feel you have to do something to solve my problem, you have failed me. Listen. All I ask is that you listen. Don't talk or do, just hear me. Advice is cheap. 20 cents will get you both Dear Abby and Billy Graham in the same newspaper. So this is from a long time ago, and Dear Abby was a column on the newspaper a long time ago when newspapers was 20 cents. So I just wanted to explain that. And she would just give advice. It's brilliant, but it's from a long time ago. Newspapers not 20 cents anymore. So he says, listen. All I ask is that you listened. Don't talk or do, just hear me. Advice is cheap. 20 cents will get me both. Dear Abby and Billy Graham in the newspaper. And I can do that for myself. I am not helpless, maybe discouraged and faltering, but not helpless. When you do something for me that I can and need to do for myself, you contribute to my fear and my inadequacy. But when you accept as a simple fact that I feel what I feel, no matter how irrational, then I can stop trying to convince you and get about this business of understanding what's behind this irrational feeling. And when that's clear, the answers are obvious and I don't need advice. Irrational feelings make sense when we understand what's behind them. So please, please listen and just hear me. And if you want to talk, wait a minute for your turn, and I will listen to you. And so allowing these words to just kind of deeply, deeply flood your entire being, travel everywhere as you were listening deeply. And perhaps you noticed, even as I was reading, that the mind was going on a story, that the mind was interpreting things, or maybe it was distracted, fleeing the moment. So just noticing that, and that's okay. Bringing deep acceptance. And whenever you're ready, just coming back to the breath. Coming back to this body sitting here. And practicing deep listening. And so taking in a deep breath. And on a long exhale, just allowing the eyes to open. I thank you for this form of practice. Maybe just allowing the body to dictate how it wants to move. And just stretching a little bit, moving a little bit. Taking a breath. And so this listening practice is very, very important in communication, right? And so I thought it would be very interesting to start out with this listening and then move into talking more about communication as we're going to do today. And so as we navigate our communication with others, it's really important to first just come into terms to us listening and noticing the filter that we bring into our communication, right? And so we spent some time last year talking about perception, right? Our interpretation of things. How am I interpreting this? How am I interpreting what people are saying, right? And so really tuning into maybe just listening and So when we listen in this way in mindfulness, we're not just listening for the sake of listening to the person, but we're constantly checking in with ourselves. So we're going back and forth. How did that land with me? Noticing, listening. So we're deeply engaged in the entire experience. In this entire experience, we're listening with our body, we're listening with our ears, we're listening with our eyes. We're really fully engaged with the experience of one another as we speak. And this is what we are often, I kind of encourage to practice when we go into the breakout rooms. This is part of our informal practice that we do here every time we're together. So every time we're in small groups, really that kind listening to being fully engaged and to notice, right? What rises for me when you speak? What rises for me when you talk about these things? What is it? What is it triggering in me so that I can address that for myself, so that I can take care of myself, right? And so every time we're engaged in communication, most likely, there's going to be a filter in which we come with, right? So if somebody says that, there'll be an interpretation. This is how I understand that. And so a lot of miscommunication happens because of how we interpret things. And so the invitation is to just listen, to learn how to listen, and to notice what is my interpretation of this right now, right? And so I wanted to do a little demo today of the different ways that we might respond to a difficult communication. And by difficult, I mean, a disagreement. Maybe somebody's saying something that we just don't quite agree. Maybe somebody's saying something that just kind of doesn't land right with us, right? And so there are different ways in which we can respond, right? There's being submissive about it, right? Submissive means that we just kind of take blame, we go into a very passive stand. We kind of just withdraw completely, and so if somebody's saying something that is triggering, we might just kind of go into submission completely. Yes, 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 you're right. Stuff like that. Or it could be aggressive, right? So somebody says something, we're like, kind of want to throw that punch, right? But with our words. And we kind of just respond in a very aggressive way, like, well, I didn't do that. I don't think, right? Or it could be dismissive, in which we just don't want to deal with that at all. I don't want to deal with this right now. I'm just gonna kind of walk away. I'm gonna dismiss this entire thing. I'm just, that's not for me right now. Have a great day right now. I'm having a great day. I don't want to deal with this. Right? Dismiss it. Or it could be assertive. Assertive meaning that, I kind of take your point, I understand it, and then I kind of give back what I can ask questions. What would work? How should I go about this? Right? And so I have a friend today, and he's gonna help us demo this. Okay. So let me get him. So this is my friend that he helps me teach all the time. His name is Raccoon, and he's gonna help me demo this today. You good, Raccoon? All right. So there, he's ready. And so I'm going to just demo really quickly the different types of communication, just so that we get an idea of this. Okay, and we're going to have this scenario. The scenario is going to be, and Raccoon is listening. So the scenario is going to be that I told Raccoon this one thing last week, and then he went and told Elephant. And that's just not appropriate. So I have to come down to Raccoon and let him know that that was not okay, and I'm really mad about that. Okay. So Raccoon is going to demo all the different kinds of communication. So there's going to be submissive, aggressive, dismissive, and assertive. And these are just four that we kind of, there's more ways of handling, but this is just a good idea of how to handle these things. So, all right, you ready? Okay, perfect. So Raccoon, last week, I told you this thing that happened. And then you went and told Elephant. And I'm really upset about that. I'm really upset. Oh no, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Oh my gosh, how can I help it? How can I fix this? How can I fix this? Maybe you can call Elephant and fix it. Maybe I can tell him that that's not okay. I shouldn't have done that. I get it. I'll fix it. I promise. I'll make it right. I'll make it right. So if you can see, Raccoon is withdrawing a little bit, right? He's withdrawing his body. There's no eye contact anymore, right? He is kind of turning inward, right? This is submissive. He's being very submissive about it. He's not explaining anything. He's not telling me why he said the things he said. He's just kind of trying to place me. What can I do to fix it, right? Now, Raccoon, the next one is going to be aggressive. So get ready. So Raccoon, I'm really upset at you. You know, last week I told you this thing and I said it was just between you and I. And then you went and you told everybody, including Elephant. And I'm just not happy about that. Well, what do you want me to do about it? I mean, I already said it, right? Is this like, I can't fix it anymore. I mean, just, you're going to have to get over it. You're just overreactive. It wasn't even a big deal. Okay. You get it? It's not a big deal. Get over it. Okay. So Raccoon just kind of attacked me back, right? He became aggressive when I said that, very defensive. Like, it's just not a big deal. It's not my fault, right? I'm not going to deal with this right now. Right. Now we're going to do dismissive. Okay. You ready? Okay. So Raccoon, I'm really upset that you told everybody, including Elephant, what I told you last week. That was between you and I can't believe you did that. Are you listening to me? Are you, Raccoon? I mean, I'm talking to you. Where are you doing? Where are you going? I'm completely speaking to you right now. Why are you not listening? So Raccoon kind of just left the room. He does not want to hear it. Okay. So he was completely dismissive, didn't address how I felt, didn't address what I'm telling him. He just, and this would be more, if he had a cell phone, he would have grabbed the cell phone and just started looking at his text, right? Something like that. So Raccoon was not really responding to what I'm saying, completely dismissed everything I said, just disregarded it. Now, there's other ways that he could have also been dismissive, such as saying, oh, okay. And then just walking away. There was no need to ask any questions or anything. Now, Raccoon is going to be assertive on this next one, okay? So, Raccoon, I am really upset. Last week we had this conversation and you went and told Elephant and everybody what I told you. And I'm just not happy about this, okay? I don't think you should have done that. Well, can we just talk about this a little bit? I didn't think, that it would cause this problem, but I understand how you feel. I'm sorry I did this. Maybe, is there any way that I can fix this? Is there any way that I can maybe help everybody? Maybe tell them that, wasn't my intention. How can I fix this? How, I promise that next time I'm gonna listen carefully. Maybe I'm gonna pay more attention. What should I do different? How can I make this work? Okay, so Raccoon just kind of worked with me. He's kind of seeing how I feel. He's acknowledging my feelings. And now he's saying, what can I do about this? How can we fix it? Right? How can we move forward? So he's kind of doing this dance with me, right? He's kind of saying, okay, this is what's happening. So if I respond to him now and I say, well, I'm still really upset. I just don't think you should have said that. It really hurts my feelings. I'm sorry that hurts your feelings. I didn't mean for that to happen. And I promise you that next time I will try better. I will not really share anything that you tell me. I'm so sorry. So there he goes. He is coming back with something that will set me at ease. He's working with me. He's listening. He is attending to my needs. Okay. I hope this makes sense, but if not, then we can continue to talk about it in a little bit as well. But so that's the 4 different types of, thank you, Raccoon. You can go now and do what raccoons do best. So, bye. So there's 4 types of communication, right? So there was submissive, aggressive, dismissive, right? It's like grabbing the phone, kind of ignoring. I'm looking at my text while I'm telling you things. Assertive, I'm kind of working with you, seeing what might work. Now, this is not to say that that one is better than the other. the idea is that we can see which is our predominant habit when we're in communication. Where do I go? Am I constantly in the submissive, right? Or am I constantly aggressive in the defense mode every time somebody says something, right? Maybe I'm just dismissive all the time because I don't want to deal with things, right? Maybe that phone call comes in of like, we need to talk. And I'm not even gonna, I'm not gonna call, right? I'm just gonna kind of ignore it completely. So really noticing, or maybe it's just, I'm always assertive. I'm always trying to figure out like, oh, how can we work through this? What can we do? And I'm not really taking into consideration that if I'm dealing with somebody that might be aggressive, that might not work, right? Submissive with somebody that's being aggressive, that might not work. So this is when mindfulness kind of takes a little bit of that turn. And we've been talking about taking action, right? And we'll be talking about it's not just, okay, I know how I feel. I'm processing that right now, but how do I respond and take care of myself as well? Right? What do I do about it? And so these 4 ways that of communication can kind of help us see where do we fall, where do we fall into the most often? Which one of this is that where I'm at most of the time? And so really noticing where we're at. And then after you notice where you most likely go to, see if you can practice maybe coming up with a different one. Maybe if you're dealing with somebody that's really aggressive, maybe at that moment you need to be a little aggressive and you need to say like, that's not okay right now, right? Maybe you need to also push back. Or somebody that is just not listening, and at that point dismissive might work, right? Maybe at that point it will be yep, it's just this is just going on and on and on, and I can't deal with this anymore. It's not healthy for me. I'm going to step back, right? And so really noticing where is it that you fall into, what type of communication is your habit, and seeing if we can be open to other ways of communicating that will be more beneficial for us and to others. And now when we do this in a mindful way, we're tuning in, and this is what we did at listen and practice, because we're tuning into deep listening so that I'm aware that I'm not interpreting things in a certain way. So I'm not just reactive to my interpretation of the communication, but I'm actually aware of how I feel at that moment. But I've been listening deeply to the other person. And I know now that, okay, this is what they're going through. But how can I also take care of myself? Okay. So we're going to break out into rooms, into small groups just for a little bit right now. And the idea is to just have a little bit of a talk, like 10 minutes talk, in which you can maybe just explore without going into the story, without going so much into the story, but just explore maybe a difficult communication you might have had with somebody. Don't pick the most difficult, maybe like in the scale of 1 to 10, maybe like a 4, okay? Because otherwise we'll be talking about that in the breakout rooms the entire time. So maybe just, I went to the market and I asked this person, and the person was just like, I don't have tomatoes. And I was like, oh my God, right? Something like that we can just as an exercise. So, and then you can see, what do you usually fall into? How do you respond most of the time? And how can you be open to maybe seeing other ways of responding? Also, how do you listen, right? Was it my interpretation? Was that a filter, right? How am I interpreting the situation? And also knowing that you can always ask for clarification. When you think is your interpretation, you can always say, is this what you mean? Is this what you're saying, right? This is what I'm hearing. So, okay. So breakout rooms or small groups just for a little bit, about 10 minutes, and then we'll come right back here again and we'll continue talking about this. And if you have any questions about this, we'll do questions then. So let's see. So there we go. I will bring you back. You're going to get a little prompt in the middle of your screen if you're new, and it's inviting you to go into the breakout room. Click on it, and then it'll take you to the room, and then I'll bring you back in 10 minutes, okay? So again, the idea is that you can talk with one another and just notice what type of communication are you often kind of going into? What's your habit? What's your habit? And how can it be useful? What other type of communication would be more useful at that moment? Okay, so let's do this. Let's see. So the groups are going to be a bit smaller this time, just so that we have time. So maybe 4 or 5, maybe a little less even. And again, share an experience that's not too heavy, too much for the moment, something light, but maybe that you could have, maybe you wish that you answered in a different way. So there we go. We'll see you here in about 10 minutes and I'll call you back. You don't have to worry about coming back.